Alrighty, we are live. Testing my audio. Hearing myself speak. Man, the microphone picks up everything. Okay. All right, well, apologize for hearing the zipping and whatnot in the background. All right. Testing ye old microphone again. I believe everyone could hear me. Bum 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 bum. I need a theme music opening. Some animations. Good old Saturday morning cartoon stuff. Okay. I think I'm loud, but I can turn my volume down. We'll get cracking here in a minute or so and in earnest, just to let people filter in, mainly for so we don't miss this early part of the conversation, which is important. How's everybody doing? It's been a fun couple of days here for me. School starting. My son is a freshman. He's playing football. I was in DeForest last night. It's a little wild. Okay. Um, let's go ahead and dive into this stuff. Get started now. Um, good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Goins. For those of you, most of you know who I am, but for those of you who don't and are tuning in for the first time, my name is Matt Goins. With the WiscWeb team, I handle communications, client engagement, training, support, etc. I wear many hats within Do It, and do a lot of different things. So today's Learn with Matt is going to be all about specifically the three Google services that the UW theme can consume. I thought about doing the fourth, which would be Google Tag Manager. I am not familiar enough with, or comfortable enough with trying to teach somebody else about Google Tag Manager. It's just not something that I have picked up efficiently enough yet to feel confident in walking other people through it. But these other three, I feel confident enough that we can muddle through it together and maybe learn a couple things as we go along the way. So the purpose of today's session is to kind of talk a little bit about the setup process of Google Analytics, Google's programmable search engine, which is what it is now called. It used to be called the Google Custom Search Engine. I need to make sure I go back in and take a look at our KB documentation to uh, make sure that we take a look at that. And then Google Search Console, how the three work together, how you can use them within the UW theme, and then a couple of other little bits as we go along the way. This is one that has been requested a little bit, but mostly I've been having these conversations often with folks, often enough that I thought, well, let's go ahead and just throw something together and kind of figure it out together. So let me swap screens here. There she blows. I'm going to use Edge today to uh, keep track of all the various browser windows that I have open right now. I need a mute, like a mute button when I have to clear my throat or something. Okay. So first things first, what we're going to talk about is setting things up. So um, we're going to start with Google Analytics, setting up Google Analytics and getting that all squared away. So for Google Analytics, you will always start at analytics.google.com. All three of these are not part of our campus Google contract. They are all individual services that are Google services, and you can use your NetID login to access them. They're just not something that is a part of our Google applications that we have access to. So we can use them. Just be aware of the fact that you have to go to the individual sites to access them. So, analytics.google.com, it will stop and prompt you to log in. You can log in via your NetID at WiscWeb.edu. Hit next. It will ask you for your campus NetID and password. You will then have to authenticate in. And then you come up to the point where you decide which account it is that you want to, zoom in a little bit here, that you want to use to create an account or access an account. So those of you who have been around long enough, who have taken the in-person training with me back in the day, this is something that I talk about then. Jenna just posted something yesterday in the WordPress user group Teams channel about using a campus service account or some sort of general departmental account to be one of the addresses. And from my perspective, I would use a departmental account or a service account to create these individual accounts. The purpose behind that is you want to make sure that if you leave, someone else can log in to access this information. Jenna was talking about yesterday the number of conversations. I mean, I would say I've probably had this conversation 6 or 7 times this calendar year. And we've just hit the fall, and I'm assuming I'm going to have it at least 3 or 4 more times throughout the next few months because of new people coming on, the turnover, things of that nature. And it's because person sets up their Google Analytics, their Google Search Console, all that stuff. They set it up with their either a personal Gmail account or a personal campus account. And if you leave, that person leaves, that login ability leaves with them because they hadn't added anybody else that could log in to manage the account. So it's very important to remember this quick, easy step, which is set up somebody else to have access to it if you were to leave. Now, if you're going to set it up on your own with your own NetID account, your own email address, etc., okay, you can always add users after the fact. And if you don't have a service account or a more universal account to add to it, come chat with me and let's figure something out because I can always be added to it, or one of our service accounts could always be added to it. So that way, we don't particularly want to manage or look at your data, but if you need someone to just be an account in there in case, let's chat. Let's make sure that we can help out whomever comes after you to look at this stuff. So that being said, and because I want to sort of do this from fresh start, I'm going to use a service account that I had created. Yes, I accept Google as my overlord. Okay, start measuring. Let's create a new account name. So let's do Matt's WiscWeb training site. Yes, Moira, and I'll actually show you how to add those in a second here. Let's see. I don't care about these. I don't care about my friends playing video games, so let me get that. All right, so all that stuff next. So here's another step in this process that has changed, and I think I have set up our documentation for this, but I want to make sure I also touch on it while I'm chatting with all of you, which is roughly last year, maybe September, maybe a little bit earlier. Google Analytics updated their um, preferred means of data collection from what was referred to as Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. And Google Analytics 4 is fine. It captures the data that you want. It's just a little more complicated in the fact that there is a lot more um, ability for you to track certain things that you used to be able to do with Google Tag Manager. Again, Analytics 4 not something that I have had the opportunity to really dive deep into. So I am not recommending people set up Google Analytics 4 because what you can do is once so let's just say WiscWeb training site, and I change this to Chicago time. What I can do is I can click this Show Advanced Options, and I could create a Google Analytics property, and then train.WiscWeb.WiscWeb. So I could do both. I can always do this later as well, but I'm just going to stick with a universal analytics property because, again, I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm doing with it. It matches the things that I need. So, not to say you shouldn't think about doing this. I'm telling you from an ability for me to support you, this is the one I know right now. So, let's go with that one. So, set that up. Training site, the URL, click the next. Business size, well, I deal with lots of people, so industry category. What do you think? I would say I deal with computers and electronics. Uh, what are my goals with Google Analytics? Sure, engagement, optimize site. Okay. Kind of make this stuff up. I do accept you, Google. I know you're going to take my information. Nope, 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 nope. Save. All right. Lots of things are going to happen right now because I'm just now setting this up. Lots of pop-ups, things of that nature. All right. So obviously I get a tracking ID. So this tracking ID is what I'm going to take over to my Whisk website. So now I'm going to bounce over to Chrome because, again, I got browsers galore. You can't see it, but I've got Edge, 2 Chrome windows, a couple of Firefoxes down here. I have a laptop right next to me with another Firefox open. Browsers for days. So once you've gotten your tracking ID, you can then bounce over to your site, and to apply this, you go to Appearance, Customize. Da, 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 da. You go down to Google Services, and you can kind of see I was tinkering around with some things here, but I will capture that. That was the the Analytics 4. That's what an Analytics 4 tracking ID looks like. It has a G dash in it. So again, at a point I was trying to learn it, I hadn't done it yet. So I'll click Publish, and that's it. Now I have attached Google Analytics to my Whisk website. We'll get back to that one in a second here. Again, too many windows open. So that's easy enough. I mean, it's really setting that type of stuff up is relatively straightforward. So if I go back to home now, I'll see that this is all that information. Again, I just set it up, so there's literally going to be zero data in here. We'll take a look a little bit later at the interaction between all of these three within Google Analytics, but that's this guy right here. So I set it up with my service account. So Moira asked the question, can you add a service account? So what I can do is I can go down to admin. And so there are three levels here. There's the account, which is the overall access to everything within this particular site's analytics. There's property. You can use one analytics account to manage multiple properties. What, up to, I don't know how many you can have. I mean, it's got to be like 99 or something like that. I mean, there's a lot that you can put those. So depending upon where you want to give people access. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention the last one. Views. So views are a little bit different because what views do is they allow you to specify out particular sections of data if you wanted to, and only view them there. So by default, you have all website data. You could create several others that are like, only mobile views, only views from Firefox, that kind of thing, where you could really segment out that data, but that starts to get a little more complicated. You want to make sure that you always leave the all website data there, because you potentially could delete these, and that could be bad, because if you delete your all website data, you lose the history from this point moving forward. So to add people, so for example, if I wanted to give someone access to the full account, I would click on Account Access Management. Sorry, no mute button. And then from here, I can click Add in the upper right, Add Users. And now what I can do is I can add additional people. So obviously I can add myself, MB Goins at WiscWeb. It will see that that's me. I could add Linda to it if I wanted to. I just really winged it there with the net ID. But I can add other people to it. So the tricky thing here with service accounts is service accounts are a little bit weird, because as you can see, you can't see it. Just give myself all of the rights. I don't need to notify about email. Click Add. And there's another map. So notice this here with the service account. It is the actual address, the email address itself is matt@wiscweb.wisc.edu. But notice that when you are adding a service account, you have to underscore the departmental aspect of it. So if I wanted to add someone from Wiseman, for example, Linda's there, I wanted to add her service account, I would have to go Linda_Wiseman@wisc.edu. So just be aware of that. So what that would look like is this: users, Linda_Wiseman@wisc.edu. Doesn't match a Google account. So that's another aspect of it that you have to be aware of, is the service account domain has to have access to Google Apps. So that's another level of complication that you need to do there. So let's say support_WiscWeb@wisc.edu. So I know that the WiscWeb domain has this. So this is our support. This is the account I use for like the streaming and stuff like that we do here. So that's how that works. Don't say it. So that's how you add users to it. Oh, right. See if that'll work. Yep. So Wiseman does have access to it. I picked Linda instead of Rowley. That's all. But that's how you do it. That's how you add those service accounts. So again, if you have already set up Google Analytics, I really recommend going in and adding another, like a service account to it so that you have someone else to have access to it. All right, so that's the Google Analytics aspect of all of this. Any questions on that? I'm not going to go too far down like the Google Analytics road to like teach you about Google Analytics. That stuff is all already kind of covered in the other trainings that I've done, in plenty of other trainings that I've done. So I don't want to go too far down that. We can always talk about that at another time. All right. So the second thing that I want to set up is what's called programmable search engine. And so programmable search engine is the Google custom search engine. It's that aspect of it. So if I go here, so just one thing, Google. So adding a Google custom search engine to your site, there is a. I'll put this KB doc in here. There is a step in here in this process that you have to be aware of, that we want you to take because of the fact that we need you to work through our Do It Google Apps group, our G Suite folks, to request the Google Custom Search account. And the reason for that is when you go through our Google Apps team here on campus, we have the ability to create an account that subsequently removes ads from your search results. So just be aware of that. And again, you fill out a form, what's the title? Obviously, it would be your site. Sites to search, you'd put in the site that you want to search. Who the admins are. So again, if you have, MB Goins, and then here I would go, Rowley _ Wiseman, that kind of thing. So that way, and again, once you have access to it through your individual net ID, like I was just showing with analytics, you can always go back in and add additional folks to this as well. But again, I'm going to walk through it differently because I just want you to see the process. But this is the actual business process that we want you to follow, is to fill out this form, request the account, and that way you can get ads removed from your search results. Let's just do a little search here. It is cse.google.com/CSE. So again, used to be called Google Custom Search Engine. It is now called the Programmable Search Engine. I will click Get Started. So now the process again is telling this what it is I want it to search. So put in train.WiscWeb.wis.edu. That's the only one. Name of the search engine, WiscWeb training site. And I think you can add any of the following. Entire site. Entire domain. Yeesh. Parts of the site. So if you notice here, there are different ways. So we've had this conversation before. There are some intricate ways to use the programmable search engine to limit where a site is searching, but it complicates things greatly if you set it up those ways. My brain's going a mile a minute right now trying to think of ways to do this, but honestly, I would just leave it as the full thing. So, I might say that right there, because I want it to search, my entire site. I'll click Create. Boom, 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 boom. So now that I have created it, let's get code. And this is, of course, very fun because now I have to take that code, and this is the information that you'll get in an email. And again, I'm walking through the setup. Once you have your account, you'll be able to log back. You'll be able to log into Google Custom Search Engine to I would say get in touch with us so that we can take a look at that, just to make sure, because we can chat with the Google folks to see what's going on there. That's something where we would have to, if you have like the original email from when you set it up with Do It and things like that. Otherwise, we'd have to take a look at that. Boom, let's go. So what I have to do is I have to get that number right there, which is not going to allow me to do that. So let's get that information out of there. So now, once I have that number right there, that etc. blah 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 equals, and there's my number. I'm going to go back to my site, and here's your. Let's go back to here because now I need to go into search options. And I'm going to use search on the site, but now I'm going to use that value right there. So I'll click publish. All right, up to here. So now, let's see, I'm just looking at all this stuff because there's lots of stuff on here. Public URL, safe search, ideally you don't have anything on your site that a safe search would be needed for, but there's your options right there. You can add some additional sites to search if that would be something you'd want to do. So this is where the complications start to come into play because I could see something like Wiseman, for example. Wiseman Parker this may be something that Linda we would like look at. How do we have the Wiseman site search all of the children's site off of Wiseman, children's sites off of Wiseman, that kind of idea there. So again, you can see like this could get complicated because now we're starting to have to plan out quite a bit. I'm gonna stick with single site right now, but it's that. Search the entire web. This is one that people accidentally click on, mainly just out of confusion. Like, oh yeah, I want to search the web. I want them to search. Except what happens is instead of it only searching your site, now it's expanding to the entire interwebs. And that takes away from the results that they're going to find on your site. So I'm going to turn that off because I don't want it to search beyond train.wiscweb.wis.edu. Okay. Let's see here. It's saving everything as I'm going. Let's see, ads. Again, this is where that comes into play there. Users, here's where I add additional users. Notice again um, the options there. So I could go in and I could go and be going at wis.edu, and I can make them an administrator or an owner. I'm going to make them an owner. Click OK. And now I'm in there as an owner as well. Next one that's important is look and feel. So look and feel is something that you'll want to take a look at just because this is how those results come back into play. So for example, since I've already set this up, if I searched for, let's say, lorem, this is how the results show up. Now, obviously, I have no. I question. But this is how the result will pop up, and that's the default. And so I kind of want to change that. So let's go back over to here, and I'm just going to go. I'm looking at the options. Let's try that one. Save. Save and get code. That's the code changed. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Just doing a hard refresh just to clear my cache. What does Hakuna Matata have on it? See, that's why I was curious. I don't know. I think maybe it has to consume it first, so it has to crawl it before those results start showing up. So this is how it looks for the way that I set it up there. I don't like the pop up, so I would set it up differently there. I know if I go, I don't like the autofill. Do. But for example, if I do user up here, you know, lots of stuff. So I think this is just a matter of crawling and getting it set. Oh, I know. Let me tell you, folks, I am a smart cookie. I have it in my notes, but I'm not looking at my notes. I'm doing this all on the fly. The reason why Lime is not showing up as I am searching for it is because we have a handy dandy little setting within your site when it is a something.WiscWeb, and that is this thing right here. Search engines are discouraged from indexing the site. So it can't actually crawl it to find that information. So, and I'm not going to do this because I really don't want to tinker around with my site becoming crawlable by search engines. But once your site goes live, this goes away, and then your site becomes crawlable, and then the searches actually work. Sorry about that. Like I said, notes, memory. Do it live, they say. Regardless, that's how it works. So now, once I have the Google Custom Search, the Google Programmable Search set up, I have to get used to not saying it that way. The other aspect of this that I want to work with is connecting Google Analytics to my programmable search. And so if I click on Statistics and Logs, and I go to Google Analytics, because I'm logged in with the account that is attached to the Google Analytics profile, I can choose which one it is that I want to apply this to. And so now what I need to do is I need to add some parameters. And the query parameters are what the value is that is searched for when you actually do a search. So for example, if I'm looking at WiscWeb, and I again do a search for user, what you'll notice is up here, this is the parameter that I'm looking at. This is the value that you want for your analytics setup, is that question mark S equals. Go back over to here. The query parameter that I want is that. Back here. Save. So now what's happening is Google Custom Search, Google Programmable Search, is connected to my Google Analytics account, and it is tracking anytime the parameter of question mark S equals. So question mark is just I can't think of the right way to explain it, but it's a command that is telling the browser. The S is basically search equals, and then the value of the search field is after that. And there's additional things in here as well. You can see the ampersand. These are all additional parameters that are being added so that like this, the if I need to, I can click 2, 3, etc. It's page 1, that kind of thing. But what's important is getting that value in there, the S equals. So now how this works between analytics and your site is what you'll be able to do. So let's go to WiscWeb service. Is you'll be able to track behavior of visitors to your site by going over here to behavior, going to site search, and looking at search terms. And these are things that people are searching for out of our site. Yeah. Doesn't really help us much to know. Like, Badger app? Nope. Coming back to work? Nope. We're not helping you there. Dolly Lennon? Nope. 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 Esri? Nope. Nope. GIF? Okay. Hero image size? All right. Licensing? Mentoring CTSI? Like, you can kind of see, like, I think people end up on our site and start searching for things thinking it's WIS.edu. But what I can do is, so for example, if I take a look at IT, I can start to make sure that if these are the things that people are searching for, either A, they don't want to dig too far into my site. They're just using the search field, which is, that's an appropriate thing. Like, if I land on a site and I just want to find the thing I'm looking for, I'm going to use the search field. But this is just one more way for you to look at whether or not you're able to meet the needs. So, I'm looking at this and this is interesting. I'm wondering, does this mean that they leave the search page, or do they leave your site? The exits from your site. Got it. Um, and that might be interesting to look at just because of the standpoint of I'm looking at it.wis.edu. Some of these exit percentages might be because there's a KV doc linked to it as well. But like in the case of like help desk, people are spending an additional 7 minutes on the site once they've searched for help desk. Duo, extra 5 minutes. Again, everything about analytics is how you want to view it and how you want to consume it. This is interesting to me. How long are they spending on my site after they've searched? I would hope it would be higher because they're looking at the content that I'm trying to provide to them. All right. Any questions on the programmable search engine? By the way, just because we're here and I'll introduce this idea to it. For those of you who have knowledge bases as well, like a kv.wis.edu / something, you have your own knowledge base space. We do have a plugin that allows you to connect your knowledge base search results to your site as well. So something that I think people should think about and take a look at is this aspect here. And this is a conversation I've had several times, which is difference between putting content on a website, putting content in a knowledge base. There's lots of different theories, lots of different conversations about what is appropriate where. Knowledge bases are really how-to technical guides on, helping people do things. Yeah, more in a second. Um, and so, some things you might introduce on your website, but you might have further information on a knowledge base. Because a knowledge base has its own search capabilities, it has its own analytics, it has its own um, management that's different from your website. So, something to think about there. Okay, so analytics tracking back to the searches. So, um, in at my programmable search page, if I go to, so first and foremost, here's my search engine ID right there. This is the value that I need to put into my customizer area for Google Custom Search. And then from here, I would go to statistics and logs, to Google Analytics, and then I would attach it to the profile that is my analytics account. So in this case, this one right here. And then what you need to do is set up that parameter. You need to add that query parameter, which is that question mark s equals, and then save that. And that automatically does it. There's no additional work that needs to be done in analytics. The moment I set it up here, the two are now connected. Now it's just a matter of once this data starts collecting, you can go to analytics, behavior, site search, and then search terms. I'm going to type that out. Behavior. Yeah. So that way you can start to get an idea of what people are looking for within your site. Again, I think that's a nice thing to have because the more information you have, the better off you are making informed decisions about your site. Which is a conversation. Again, I have lots of conversations with folks just about the whole setup process of their sites. This is one of those things where data can be viewed many different ways, but having data at least allows you to make an informed decision depending upon how you're reading that data. So that's Google Custom Search Engine. So we've talked about analytics, we've talked about setting up Google Custom Search Engine now, and then we've talked about connecting the two. So the last Google service specifically to touch on is the Google Search Console. So let me go back to Edge. Let's stay in here just because I want to make sure I leave all the things open that need to be open. And then let's go to search.google.com. Let's see here. Google Search Console. Okay. So search.google.com / Search Console. So now we're going to start working on setting up the Google Search Console. So this one's a little more complicated. This one I'm not as comfortable with on the internal side of things because of the fact that there's a lot of things that have to do with Google Search Console that are very important because they do play into like things like search engine optimization and stuff like that. But essentially what you want to do is you want to add your URL prefix. So I'm entering my domain here. Waiting. All right. So the next step is how to verify that you are the site admin, site owner of, whatever it is that you're going to do. So what you need to do is, and this is, again, one of those spots where the way that we have it set up, you have to grab the code. So I'm going to copy the HTML tag value. I'm going to, again, jump over here to my handy dandy notepad, and I'm going to copy out that value right there. So this may take me a couple seconds because of the fact that I was trying to do this yesterday and kept running into issues with it. It works. Sometimes I'm not the smartest man. All right. So I'm going to go back here, back into Google Services, and you can see I did get one to work yesterday. I'm going to paste in that number. It's a long number, but this is your Google Search Console verification value. So I will publish this. I will wait a second or two and talk slowly for the internet just to make sure that it actually like processes through there. Okay, so once that's done, I've published it on my WiscWeb side. I will click verify here, and ta-da! This is what we've done to set it up so that you can easily verify that you are the owner of the site. As you'll see, this is a code that's supposed to go into the actual source of your site, which we don't give people access to. Honestly, we don't tinker around with it so much because of the fact that it's WordPress and it's sort of pre-built to an extent. We just set it up so that you can use that code there. So now if you go to property, welcome to the new Google Search Console. Got it. So here now is where you have to bounce back to this, and then I'm trying to think of how to say this as I understand it. I'm the new owner. Thank you. I can. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's go back real quick. Nope, not links. Settings. I'm the owner. Users. Oh, so here's how you can add other people to it. So if I click on this, you'll notice that it's starting to automatically incorporate some of the people that I have been adding to my other stuff. I marked you as red. Failed to mark them. Okay. There you go. Oh, Google. Anyways, I can add a user here. Same stuff as before. You know, I add in that stuff, restricted, full, etc. That type of stuff there. All right. So Google Search Console, a lot of stuff in here to look at. I can't even, there's nothing that I can do in here that would really give it justice trying to teach you guys about Google Search Console. A few things that I will point out here that we have actually looked at in the past with folks is if there is some URL that you need to remove from Google searches, you could go through that here and remove specific URLs. This comes into play if like you publish something and the link is out there and you notice in your analytics this link is constantly being clicked and it's a 404 error page because you deleted the page. You know, that's one of those spots where you might want to remove that URL from it being crawled. Also, outdated content, safe search filtering, things of that nature. So that's one, is removals. Another one that I'll get into in a second here is your sitemap, because what we have done is we've added that plugin, Google XML Sitemaps, which generates an actual sitemap for you that can be submitted to Google Search Console, which improves Google's ability to crawl your site. So I'll come back around to this in a second here. But so now I have Google Search Console set up. And again, everything goes through analytics. So now what I need to do is I need to get analytics to read my Google Search Console information, because Google Search Console, what it's doing is it's basically looking at search. It's looking at what searches are being done to get to my site. So what I do is I'll go back to analytics. Let's go back to home. I'm going to muddle through this a little bit because, again, trying to make sure I read notes and do it here. All right, so acquisition, Search Console, queries. You'll notice that, let me put that in here. Acquisition, console, queries. And so you'll notice that I haven't set it up. So what I need to do is I need to set it up so that Search Console can actually read to my site. And that is, if I click on that, it's down here. I can click on Adjust Search Console. I can click Add. I can add the property that I have set up. Click Continue. Just making sure I'm reading things. Associate. And there we go. I have now combined the two. So now if I go back home, again, this may or may not work because I just set it up. So it's obviously I just set it up. Nothing has come through. But essentially what this will tell you is what are people searching for at Google to get through to my site? So UW-Madison box. So I just wanted to make sure I understood the two here. So UW-Madison box, 771 impressions, which means it showed up 771 times when people searched for it. And of those, I've gotten that many clicks. So you're looking at now, what are people searching for at Google to get through to your site? And this is essentially a significant part of search engine optimization is the content that you're putting on your site being picked up by search engines? And how is it working for you? And again, you can kind of look at UW-Madison box, UW box, UW-Madison. You can see the different ways that people are trying to find your site. Now, this isn't to say you want to, try and get all types, all ways that this is showing up within your site. But you want to make sure that you're at least putting UW, box, and Madison in the same general page. So that way it improves your optimization. That all makes sense for folks. This is why the three of these are so very important together, is because analytics is pretty straightforward. Analytics is exceptionally important because of the fact that it gives you all of this data for you to make decisions on. So, if I go home for this, I can just, I can show, here are the top pages within WiscWeb. Our home page is the top page. That makes sense. The 403 error page is our second most popular page. Why is that? Oh, and then you start to think about it. Again, this is me knowing this stuff, but the 403 error page comes up because people aren't logged into VPN when they click on login. So you'll get the 403 error page. and then that triggers as an impression for us or a page view for us. And, then you realize, oh, I'm not logged into VPN. So, all right. Any questions thus far in relation to the three that we've talked about? Google Analytics, setting up Google Analytics, setting up programmable search. Okay. Setting up programmable search, and then setting up Search Console. And then connecting the three together. All right. Seeing none. I hope this makes sense. I'm trying to walk through what my process would be, which would be I would always set up analytics first. Then I would go to the Search Console, the programmable search, the search engine. Then I would set up Search Console. And as I'm going through that process, I'm also connecting the three. Always use a service account to get yourself in. Add users after the fact. If you want to add individual users, you can. Just make sure that there is an account that can access this all after the fact. Okay. So let's now chat a little bit more about, I shouldn't say a little bit more because I'm not going to go in depth on Google Search Console. Let's talk about the last aspect of Google Search Console that I want people to be aware of because of the fact that it does assist with your search engine optimization. So if you click on sitemaps, again, you can coordinate this with the Google XML sitemaps plugin that we use. So I have it activated. So now if I go down to settings and then XML sitemap, here's all the various things that are in here. So, there's a lot in here to take a look at. I don't want to get too far down the line with this, but some of the things that whenever people ask me to set it up, I'm always going to look down here and look at some of the custom taxonomies, custom post types. So, for example, if I use faculty staff members, I always want that to be a part of my sitemap. If I use event categories or faculty types, that kind of stuff there, I want to make sure that I am doing that. And I can also exclude things from this if I want to. And exclude specific posts. Now, in this case, it asks for a list of IDs in here. What you'll notice is if you hover your mouse over I can't really, this is difficult to show, but if I hover my mouse over this chart test page right here, what you'll notice in the lower left corner of the screen is I move my mouse off of it because I took my hand off my mouse. There's a post equals value. That post equals value is the ID of that particular page or post. So that would be the value. So 8481, if I wanted to exclude it from this, I could. Leave these as is because they're set up by default. And honestly, you don't want Google getting upset with you for trying to game the system. So then if I click update, I'll just click update options. Not that it matters because of the fact that my site isn't searchable. So here's your URL for your sitemap is etc/sitemap.xml. So this is the value that I would put in to there. And I would submit it. And again, all this does is this tells Google Search Console and subsequently Google, I have a sitemap. And this helps Google crawl your site that much better. Because with a sitemap, it's telling Google what your structure is. Now, you know, Google also has to crawl it for the content itself. But this is one of those steps. Whenever we were in the in-person trainings, I would always talk about the fact that search engine optimization is really like a puzzle. It's like a big game, and you're just trying to fit pieces together the best possible to work the system and not upset the system. So that's why we're doing things like the Google XML sitemap. We're talking about Google Search Console. You can go here and you could. I'm not sure where you can do it. Um, Nope, don't want that. Somewhere in here, there is a way to request Google to crawl your site again. I'm not quite sure where that is. But it's a request. You can't force Google to crawl your site again. It's basically asking nicely, Google, may I? But again, this is just one of those additional steps for you to um, help improve your visibility. Um, Timing of all of this, honestly, I would set up all of this the day that you launch your site. So that way it is pulling from existing URL, train.wisc.edu or wiseman.wisc.edu, housing. It's not pulling from something.wiscweb, it's pulling from something.wisc. That way it's fresh, it is what it is. No need to concern about is the forwarding working, etc. Just set it up the day you go live. Make that part of your go live process. And that way it is squared away. Trying to think, looking at my notes, any other things I wanted to touch on. Any questions? Any things that you guys would like me to either poke around at or explain a little bit better? Just kind of looking around. Oh, you can add your own custom auto completions? Interesting. I have to read a little bit more about that. Synonyms. Huh. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, Dave, we do. I think I put it's up above. It's that 69294. It goes through. It goes through the process of requesting it, and then once you get it, putting it into your site. Past that, the Google team does a lot of the setup. I don't have much in the way of now managing the programmable search, which is why I said I think I need to review this just a little bit more. The setup is pretty straightforward. This aspect of it, hey, back here. Yep, there we go. This stuff I think I need to dig more into in the knowledge base doc, which I have taken note of already. But this would be the specific doc to set it up because you have to work through our campus Google Apps team. Let's see. I and like from this standpoint, I have nothing on Google Search Console. If there's some things that you really want to ask about with Google Search Console, you send them in. I can try to ask our Google expert about the questions, but yeah, I don't know enough about this really. Any other questions? I guess we can take a quick peek at some analytics stuff just so it's kind of some of the stuff we talk about with um, analytics. What are the most important things? Yeah, that sounds great, Dave. I mean, the more questions you have, the more I learn. Honestly, um, this is kind of the things of uh, goal. Oh, I set up some goals once. Completely forgot about them. I have no idea what any of these goals are because I was showing people how to create create the goals. Ooh, somebody's looking at our terms of service. Somebody's looking at the training page. Hey, folks. So, anyways, I mean, this is not too much else that I was going to go into. I know I scheduled this until noon just because I didn't know. I want to give myself enough time in case something broke and you guys got to watch me unbreak things. But like I said, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in. Trying to think of other things that are going on right now for WiscWeb in general. Nope, we're not in the change freeze yet. Change freeze is next week. The change freeze goes for 2 weeks, so we won't be doing anything significant when it comes to updates. We won't be updating plugins. We won't be updating UW theme. We did push out an update to WordPress. We're up to WordPress 5.8 right now. We have troubleshot, which I'll talk about at next week's Lunch and Learn. That slowness / outage that we had last week. We did troubleshoot that quite a bit, and we think we have discovered the error. And hopefully more people will be watching when we have the Lunch and Learn. But basically, the error came down to plugins don't always play nice, and this is why we have such a hard stance on adding plugins, is because the theme, WordPress, and plugins, the three did not play nice together, and it caused us many issues. So, so we're in the chain. We're fresh into it. I thought it actually started Sunday. So yeah, so we have discovered the error there. We have fixed the error there. So we'll talk about that at the Lunch and Learn. We do have a UW theme update coming later this month. I don't know if we have a lot of significant changes coming with this theme update, but I'll have to look. I know we have a couple of additional things going in, but I'll have to take a look at that as well. So, gosh, I'm trying to see here. Custom search engine, search console, analytics. Make sure you combine the three. All that data goes through. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I need to do is I'm thinking about it right now. Tag Manager is so scary to me because it's so easy to mess up and so easy to do things incorrectly. I'll get a little more comfortable with Tag Manager and I'll do a learn with Matt on some of the simplistic items that exist within Tag Manager. I don't know nearly as much as Jonathan does, but I can at least muddle through some things to break. So, all right. No other questions. We'll call it there for a morning. Thank you all for attending, asking questions. Have a great weekend. The weather is not supposed to be unbearably hot. I'm so looking forward to that. Yeah, we'll have the lunch and learn next week. So we'll talk to everybody then. Take care, everybody.